Hello, and welcome to Reel Film Snobs. I am Angela Yeager. I'm pleased to have with me back on the show Autumn Edwards. Welcome to the show, Autumn.
Thanks for having me, Angela.
No problem. I'm happy to have you back. And Autumn and I decided because everything is such a hellscape right now, people might want some suggestions for feel good movies. And of course, this is feel good movies as filtered through our taste, which means it might not be your taste for feel good movies. But we each picked two that we're going to review today. And these were just ones, feel good doesn't have to be a comedy necessarily, but it's just something that makes you feel good. It's like chicken soup for the soul, all those types of, wonderful phrases. So these are our picks, and you might not like them. I did notice there is a theme. We each have apparently, which we'll talk about, I
For
think, probably
sure.
after you've seen some of them. But I definitely noticed that like mine are very obvious versus, and yours are very obvious. So it's kind of funny. But we'll kick off with my first one, which is Romy and Michele's high school reunion from 1997. I was in college when this came out. Probably, let's see, 97 would have been like my second year of college. So, yes, this is a little bit of nostalgia for me, but this is about two women who go back to their high school reunion. They were very unpopular and bullied in high school. And so this is a great movie for anyone who was like not the cool kid and they want to be cool when they go back. So they kind of like manifest all these things to make themselves cool. Of course, when they get there, it doesn't go quite as planned, but there's a happy ending. It movie stars Mira Sorvino as Romy and Lisa Kudrow as Michele. They're both absolutely just, in my opinion, brilliant in this movie. This was one of these movies, I don't think it was actually a super huge hit. It did okay, but it's kind of become a cult classic since it came out, especially people probably my generation who saw it. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. I own it and I've watched it repeatedly over the years. It's a female friendship movie, which is the theme of mine. I realized after I picked them, and I guess female friendship or friendship in general is very important to me in my life. But I think the movie about friends who up for each other no matter what and can laugh together no matter what is really important. And I love that, the usual typical female rom-com, the women go off with the guys or they find the guy and it's all about the guy. But this one is not about that. This is about Romy and Michele sticking together, which is what I really liked about it. And Autumn, being of a younger generation, had never seen this movie. So I'm very excited to hear what you think.
It was super fun. I really enjoyed it. I did think like it took me a minute to get into its rhythms, but once I like realized what it was doing and it was very purposeful with like some of the odd ways that they deliver lines or just, there are a lot of strange choices that they make, but it's all for comedic effect and it all works really well. Um, but I really enjoyed it. It was very funny. I was laughing throughout. The dynamic that the two leads have is really great. Like they bounce off each other really well and just like the way their characters are, portrayed, it's just wonderful. They feel like two real kind of airheads that, you could meet anywhere in high school. I love the specific place that they occupied in like the social strata. Like you said, they're kind of losers, but they're not losers like in the way a lot of, like mainstream pop culture movies depict that in movies. Like, often it's like the drama kids or like, the gay kids or something like that that are like the losers, but
Right.
they're kind of just loners. Like they aren't really part of a group,
Hmm.
which I really appreciated. Like they're not popular, they're not part of the drama club, they're not in any sports.
Right.
They are really defined by each other. And I thought that was very sweet. And like you said, just a wonderful portrayal of like that female friendship. And that at the end of the day, that's all you really need is just a good friend to lean upon.
And it has dancing, which is
And it
one of
has
my requirements.
dancing.
As anyone who knows me knows, any movie with dancing, especially something that's unusual or very well choreographed, that's an automatic star to any movie. So if
And
you
the
want to get a good review
finale,
on, yes, oh, I
the
know.
finale there is definitely unusual and well choreographed dancing. I will say, I did not see that coming. Like you understand they're building up to some sort of dance there, but what they do, like that,
Oh no,
spoiler
the
alert, like
dance is
abstract,
awesome.
like ballet, I don't even know. It was super funny.
One of the
It's super
weirdest dance
great.
sequences in the history of cinema and
Yeah.
totally works. And of course, to a great song, too.
Mhm.
Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time, one of my favorites, probably my favorite Cyndi Lauper song. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's funny because this movie was actually originally a stage play, if you can imagine that. It was a stage play. Lisa Kudrow played Michele in the stage play, different actors played Romy. And then she was asked to adapt it because of the success of Wayne's World.
Oh,
They were like, we need a female Wayne's World. You
that's
could see the
funny.
studio
Yeah.
saying that. And she was like, I don't know. I don't think this play works as a movie. And then she had the idea of like, oh, what if they had to go back to their like high school reunion? And she said the woman who wrote it said the idea came because she saw these girls outside a club in LA who were like dressed in these matching ensembles and looked very tight. And she thought, oh my God, they look like they get ready together. And like, who are these women? And she just started
Mhm.
picturing who these women would be. And I just thought it was great. So,
It's so fun. All the different characters are really enjoyable too. Like it's not just the two leads, but like I will say my favorite character in the movie is Heather for sure.
yeah.
Heather was amazing. I was like, that's my girl. That's who I relate to the most. She just is
Is
like,
that Janine Garofalo's character, right?
I think so. She's the one that smokes a ton, and
Yes,
she's
that's
just
Janine
like, yeah,
Garofalo,
oh
who
my
was one of
God.
my idols back in high school. She was in, always played these like droll characters in that time period, and that
Mhm.
is one of the things I loved about her. So,
She's so
um,
good at it. The way she's just like annoyed by everyone, hates everyone. I'm like, yes, real, so good. Like,
yes, she was the character I identified most with, minus the smoking. And of course, she becomes like super wealthy by inventing like a new type of cigarette paper or something, which
mhm,
is just awesome. But yeah, the movie's just full of the whole cast is pretty terrific. But I particularly love, of course, the main leads, and then
mhm.
Lisa and Janine Garofalo as Heather, and then of course the famous Alan Cummings as Sandy, the guy who pines for Michele throughout high school. So anyway, it's my kind of feel good movie. It's funny because I was originally going to go with dancing movies for my picks because that's
Mhm.
another theme I like. But I was thinking more like Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Gene Kelly. But a lot of those movies, it's like they're so obvious. Like everyone seen Singing in the Rain or
Mhm.
Gene Kelly's other movies or Fred Astaire. So then I kind of went in a totally different direction. But I ended up with the dancing sequence anyway. So
Yeah.
anyway, okay. So let's move on to your first pick.
So my first pick is called Night is Short, Walk On Girl, directed by Masaaki Yuasa. It's an animated film about two university students and their night on the town, basically. One is colloquially known as Otome, and she's a girl beyond her years who is excited by the dazzling world of adulthood that awaits her on this unexpectedly long night. The other is her senpai, her senior, who's in love with her and repeatedly tries to confess, but can't seem to find any good opportunity to do so. So Otome makes her way through the night, drinking like a fish and meeting a number of colorful characters along the way, as does her senpai. The film is very fantastical. It's carnivalesque. It's like a drunken dreamland where the rules of reality slip away, and what's left is a real emotional realism, I think, that explores what it really means to live and enjoy life. So I would love to know what you thought about this one.
Yeah, I really liked it. It took me a while to kind of find, it's funny you talked about that with Romy and Michelle. I took me a while to find the groove of this because I just thought, is this a movie just about functional alcoholics? It started
A
because
little
in
bit.
the beginning, and it kind of is actually like she drinks a lot. Like her whole thing at the beginning, especially more at the beginning than as it goes on, is like drinking people under tables because people are like, oh, she's just this young small girl. Like, what's she going to be able to do? And she's like, wait and see what I can do. But there is a love story here, what I really liked about this movie, I have to admit, like I think this is one that you probably need to see more than once because I've only watched it once, and the story it's a little confusing at times because I was like, where are we now? Because there's a lot going on as she goes through the night and meets all these people. There's these different things that are going on. There's this group doing kind of a theatrical production, and then there's this other group of people like trying to stop it and chase after them,
Mhm.
and there's all
The
these
used
various
book
characters.
fair and the old man who makes people eat really spicy ramen to get
Yeah,
their
there's
votes,
just like tons
all
of
sorts of,
different, yeah,
yeah.
it's like crazy, all these different, like unwieldy. I mean, yeah, so it's a lot to follow. But the animation style is for me what I just thought the animation was really terrific and really trippy in a good way.
It's so gorgeous, just beautifully hand-drawn and like such a unique character of its own. Like I've never seen any other movie that looks like this visually. I think this movie is just absolutely drenched in charm. Like it's one of just the most like put a smile on my face as a default just looking at any given frame kind of movie. It's just like absolutely fantastic and like you said, very impressive the way it weaves all these different threads together and the way, characters come in and out of the story and I just love the way that it really, at the end of the day, is about how all you need in life are good friends, good drinks, and good food, really.
Yeah. And a really wussy guy who's after you, but that's a whole other thing. I think that's one of the things I did really like it. I know I'm saying criticisms, but I have to. I just that's how my brain works. But like the relationship kind of drove me a little bit crazy because I was just like, dude, just like ask her out. Like he just the main guy was a little annoying to me at some point. Like he kept just like fretting and delaying. It reminded me a little bit of Amelie, weirdly. It was just like, would you just like get your act together and like stop playing games and just, ask her
Hmm.
out? But that part of it. But it makes the whole. And then there's these really fantastical things like this huge storm that happens at the end where she literally like goes into this what would you call it, like when she's going to like deliver, so everybody gets sick and she's the only one who's not getting sick, so she's delivering food and soup to people. And then when she tries to get to the one guy, there's like this storm, it keeps her, it's almost like blowing her off her feet.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
I
just
can't
very
remember.
surreal, like in that
Yeah, a
way.
lot
Like
of
it's
surreal.
bringing the storm of sickness and making it an external reality.
Yeah. And of course she says, I never get sick. I think there's, I have some sort of, and then so it's pretty funny at the end where she does, spoiler alert. I don't really feel like this is a movie that the plot, like saying, oh, she gets sick too, it doesn't really matter. Like that, this isn't a movie that's about the plot because it's really like this journey she goes on and all sorts of crazy things happen.
And
So,
to the movie's credit, it's not really even so much about the relationship between the boy and the girl. Like it is about like their individual encounters with other people, and
right.
it's not really like forcing the two together, I feel, in any capacity. They really like come together in just like a very nonchalant, like, oh, hi, I just see you at a cafe eventually or whatever kind of way.
Yeah, no, it's true. It isn't. And I liked all the various cast of characters. That's one of the
Mhm.
things I love in a lot of anime is when the characters, there's these colorful characters that pop up, and then maybe in this movie they actually come back often, and that I liked that you didn't just see them one time and then they disappear.
Mhm.
So yeah, very fun movie. I'd never heard of it until you recommended it. Well, actually, I had never heard either of yours until you recommended. So that was a lot of fun for me to explore some new cinema. So.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
and so I guess speaking of new cinema, another one new to you, right, is Little Forest. This one is a Korean film directed by Soon-rye. I believe I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it's the story of a young woman who's burnt out from the grind of life in the big city. So she abandons her aspirations and her part-time job and returns to the rural village where she grew up. She finds that her mom is left, leaving her to care for the house by herself. And over time, she learns how to be self-sufficient, reconnecting with nature and her two childhood friends. It's a very gentle film of like self-discovery and self-care and learning to appreciate the different ways our surroundings shape and nurture us, even long after we've left them. It's another film where food is very, very central. It's funny, I think I discovered that was my theme for happy movies. I just love food. So they're both very food-based films. This one is a lot of, you know, food porn, basically, for lack of a better term. But I just adore it. It's so loving in the way that it just, depicts the processes of cooking these various meals and like you just feel the care that's imbued with it, and it feels like you're being given like a warm hug.
yeah, this is less, like comedy, like some of my picks, and more like thoughtful, but not, and gentle, but not. not harsh in any way. I mean, at first I thought it might be going there with the whole thing with her mother, like what happened to her mother, but even that is dealt with in a very gentle way. And yes, the food is amazing. Autumn actually texted me and said, "Don't watch this if you're hungry," which was good advice. I had had dinner, so that was good. Because when I watched it, I was like, wow. And immediately the first thing I thought of is they should have put a recipe book out with this movie. Like it should come with a recipe book because as she was making
Hmm.
things, I was like, I want to know what that is, and I want to eat it right now. So, like cabbage pancakes, who knew that was the thing? But they look delicious, and so there was a lot more food than you would think based on the title and the cover, which really emphasizes the friendships and like the forest and the nature, and the all of that is in the movie, and the friendships are great. But I felt like the food was because the food was the connection to her mother too. So I
Hmm.
feel like that was really the essential thing. And the fact that she goes out because now she's living off the land and then like picks the food that she's going to then prepare, which I thought was really beautiful.
Hmm.
And it's a nice take on the usual like people go off to the city and they come back home. But I thought, which is a common trope we see in movies, like young person tries to make it in the city, goes back home, and sometimes they don't stay. Like in her case, we get the sense she's going to stay, but a lot of the time it's like they go back to the country to like learn some life lessons, and then they learn those lessons, and then they go back to the city again. But now they're a better person because they've learned some sort of lesson from the country. This one is more like, oh, I'm gonna, you definitely get the sense she's there to stay at the end, which I really liked, and there is a little bit of a budding romance, but again, it's handled very like it's not. It's never. It's more about the friendships than about any sort
Hmm.
of romance, which I also really liked. And there's a really cute dog in the movie for the dog people out
The
there.
dog is adorable. Yeah, I
His
really
name
love
is
the.
50, which I thought was
Yeah,
a really funny name for a
it's
dog.
it's so good. Yeah, I really love the different characters in this and the way they like are kind of some of them are foils for each other, but like the dynamic between the main three is just really wonderful, right? You have the main protagonist who's burnt out from city life, so she's coming back home, and then her best friend back home is tired of living in the small town. She's a banker. She's lived there her whole life, and she's desperate to make it to the big city. And so, they're
Yeah.
both learning from each other the pros and cons of both of those things. And then you have the boy who is a farmer now. He's chosen to stay where he is. He's learned how to farm and take care of himself there. And he's really built a nice place for himself there. And he delivers a lot of those lessons to the protagonist. And I don't know, like you said, it's really nice how they play off each other. There's not a lot of conflict. There's almost no conflict in this film,
Hmm.
which I think is pretty rare.
Her friend
Like,
gets mad at her for like a second, but it's not even a big, it's like a
yeah, it's
blip.
it's literally like a second. Like
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
like she's like, getting off on their bike to like leave after she sees her friend with the boy laughing and playing because she's jealous. And then she comes out of the house and she's like, "Oh, I was just arriving. I was just, coming in. Hey guys." Like it's really great. It's just such a warm feeling film. Um I don't know. I really love this one.
I love the scene where they're talking because the main protagonist, she doesn't seem too interested in the guy at the beginning, other
Yeah.
than as a friend. But the other girl says, "Oh, I want him, so you can't have, I'm going for him." And she says, "Oh, I didn't know you were, we grew up together. I didn't know you were romantically interested in him." And she says, basically her explanation is like he's the only guy in town our
Yeah.
age left.
She's
So,
like, didn't we used to call him Snotty? Because like
yeah.
he always had a runny nose. Like,
And
it's
she's
so
like, yeah,
funny.
but he looks okay now, and also he's the only guy left. Like it makes dating much easier compared to big cities where people have to go on apps and stuff. It's like, well, there's one available male, so
Mhm.
we'll be fighting over that person. Of course, I thought, well, you don't have to. You could have gone with each other, but anyway, that's a whole other thing. But the movie isn't about that. It's not really about romance. It's about reconnecting with your roots, and she had roots like she was rooted in the soil of this place and her mother made sure to plant her roots there, knowing that even if she moved away, she would might want to come
Mhm.
back. Um,
Yeah.
and also, right at the point of the movie where I thought, okay, what is she doing for money? Because they show the seasons passing, and she's digging up her food out of the ground, cooking it each day, working the land. But I'm thinking you have to be paying for electricity. You have to be paying your bills somehow. Right at that point, when I started to wonder, is this like a total? I mean, I like a little bit of realism infused with my fantasy at times. Then she says to her friend, like, "Oh yeah, my bank account's getting depleted. I'm gonna have to like figure something out." I thought, "Oh good." They kind of at least addressed it. They didn't make a big deal. It wasn't like a big crisis point in the movie
Yeah.
again because it's feel good. We don't want to be worried about finances in our feel good movies. It was just enough of a nod, like a nod to we have to, I
Presumably,
can't.
she doesn't have many bills. The house is theirs. They live in the countryside. They own it. She's not using much electricity or anything. She's probably got like a wood
Yeah, she probably
fire
had some savings from
heater
her
of some
job in the
sort.
city, but she does address
Yeah.
it at some point, like, "Oh, I'm running." It had been almost a year basically without income, so she goes back to the city for a while. But you get the sense like she's coming back because that's
Mhm.
where she's happy. So yeah, it's interesting. I read up on the movie because I was really curious because it's a female director, which is fairly unusual in Korea and South Korea. And so I was curious like about this director, and she's made quite a few other films. None of them are available on streaming. This is the only one that's available anywhere. And so this one is available on some streaming services, but none of her other films are. But the movie was actually a fairly big hit in Korea, which is also heartening because it doesn't speak to me like the kind of movie that would be a big hit in America. Like if there was an
Mhm.
equivalent movie of people just hanging out and eating food, I don't think that
Mhm.
would be a big hit. Not enough gunfire and
Not enough
action.
drama, not enough,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, so it was actually like number two at the box office in South Korea, which, is pretty good. But yeah, none of her other films are available anywhere, and I'd be curious to check them out. She is the director's an animal rights activist in her real life. And so, I mentioned this to you that I happened to notice that all the dishes they were making were vegetarian. The only reason I noticed that is because foodie movies tend to show people like chopping up a chicken or, doing stuff with, I saw a taste of things with Juliette Binoche and they were like putting the chicken in the pot to make stock. And, you see that in a lot of cooking type movies. So that was another kind of cool angle is that all the food they're eating is essentially vegetarian because she's just essentially cooking what she grows right there on
Mhm.
the land. I mean, she does have chickens for eggs, but other than that, it's pretty cool though to see how much you can make with cabbage, especially because she had a lot of
Yeah,
cabbage.
absolutely.
So if you're looking for good ideas of what to cook with cabbage, this is the movie for you. There's put that quote on the. I could see that on the poster for the movie, and people are like, "No." The people that made it are like, "No, we don't want your quote. That's not going to encourage anyone." Anyway, I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. So,
Excellent.
okay, we'll move on to our next movie. And I have to sneeze. Phew, wow, I just
Bless
sneezed on
you.
air. Okay, well, got that done. So our next one, our last one is my pick, which is We Are the Best by one of my favorite filmmakers, Lukas Moodysson, who I don't know if he's retired from filmmaking or what, because he's a younger guy. I mean, he was young when he started. He's not he hasn't made anything in years. But yeah, Lucas Moodysson, Together, We Are the Best. He's made a lot of other great movies, including Together and another movie I can't say the name of, but also known as Show Me Love in America. We Are the Best came out in 2013. It made my top 10 list that year. And you and I watched it together pretty recently, and that's why I thought of it, because this is a movie, every time I watch it, it does have some conflicts, some things that happen, but it always just puts a smile on my face. And it's another movie that's about female friendship, so I decided to pair this with Romy and Michele. It's but very different than Romy and Michele.
Mhm.
So this is about three teenage girls, and I'm leaning in and thinking of Brad right now because I'm thinking of Brad going, haha, she did lean in. So it's set in the early 1980s in Stockholm. Bobo and Clara are 13-year-old girls who are kind of, again, it's weird. It's sort of similar to Romy and Michele in that, but they're kind of ostracized by their peers for their love of punk rock. I mean, they're not really, you just mainly see them hanging out with each other. It's not like you see them getting picked on constantly, but you can tell they're just their own group, basically. So they go to their local youth club and they get irritated because there's these boys there who have their own rock band who are always using the space. So they decide to just start their own band, mainly originally to irritate these boys, even though neither of them can play an instrument. But then they befriend this girl who's Hedvig, who's a Christian, and because of that is also an outcast at their school. This is very hard for Americans to understand, but apparently in Sweden it's less common to be Christian. And she is an amazing classical guitarist. So they see her play and they're like, "Wow, we need her to join our band and teach us how to play something." So you have basically these three outcasts who are outcasts for different reasons. Hedwig because she's shy and Christian and is like plays classical guitar like a pro at 13, and then Bobo and Clara because they're the punk rockers. And so that's kind of the story. You know, they meet some other guys, and there's is a little bit of tension over boys. Which, you know, at first, the first time I saw this movie, I was a little annoyed by, but then as I've watched it repeatedly, the nice thing is that they don't let it destroy the friendship. They come together as friends, and they play their instruments in true punk rock fashion, like not giving a crap that they're not really that great, and just having fun. And they make up songs about the patriarchy and how terrible things are, and I love it. I just love this movie.
Yeah, it's a super fun movie. I was really, really charmed by it. I have to say, like, the performances of, I mean, really everyone, but particularly the leads, is really good. They're really impressive child actors. Like, they feel so believable. It's almost like Lucas Moodysson was just like, be yourselves on camera. Like, don't even think about
Yeah.
things. It feels so natural. Like, their dynamic is really, really good too. I love the chemistry between them all. And I think because it's shot in an almost documentary like fashion. Like it just adds even more realism to it. They just
Yeah.
feel, yeah, very truthfully
Moodyson likes to
depicted.
do a lot of handheld and zooms, but not in a shaky cam way. His photography style actually at times reminds me a little bit of Robert Altman, one of my
Mm.
heroes. And
Yeah.
so, um, you know, he almost all of his films works with young people. Show Me Love slash Effing 'em All, and Together, all through the eyes of children. They're all of his movies have been, and he has a way of working with young actors, unlike almost any filmmaker I've seen. Honestly, like he just gets these very naturalistic performances out of them, where they're not, you know, being cutesy for the camera, or they're just very, like you said, raw and real, and just the way they are. And both of the girls have very different kinds of families. Bobo is essentially being raised by her single mother, who's not really around a lot and isn't the most responsible person in the world, but she's not like a horrible person either. It's like that's one of the things, the reasons it's feel good. It's not like either of these girls. It's not like they have some abusive, horrible things at lifestyle. They're just, you know, it's just life,
Hmm.
you know, but they
Yeah.
have each other, and that's what counts. And then the other girl, Clara's family is exactly the opposite. They're like a big family, and her parents are pretty cool. Like her dad's like, yeah, let's play music together. They're like, okay, dad, you know, just, you know, so her parents are
Yeah.
like the cool parents that are also annoying when you're a teenager, because you're like, okay, stop pretending that you're cool because you're old and not
Yeah.
cool,
They
you know,
capture
so.
that so well, like the annoyance that the children have with their parents, regardless. Like, the parents are supporting them for the most part, but they're just like, ugh, mom, dad, shut up. Like, I don't,
Yeah, it's
stop
funny because the
talking about
parents aren't
me.
like stop being punk rock or stop
Yeah.
shaving. You know, like Bobo's got her hair, you know, cut short and very androgynous and kind of trying to do a mohawk. And the mom's always like, "Your hair looks great," you know, like supporting her. And she's just so annoyed whenever her mother says that. So that's to me realistic. Like you're at that age, you're annoyed at, or when you're a 13-year-old, you're annoyed at your parents, even when they're being supportive of you. And the poor parents are probably like, "What the hell? Well, I can't do anything right." No, you can't. It's because they're 13. So
Hmm.
I just think that I haven't seen a movie that portrays what it's like to be a 13-year-old girl as well as this movie. To me, it was just, it felt exactly what it feels like to be that age. Like everything feels like high stakes, even like some stupid meeting with some boys in a band, and everything is annoying to you.
Hmm.
That's what it's
Yeah.
like to be a 13-year-old girl. Like having been one, I was, you know, like, okay, that's what it feels
That's what
like.
it's like to
Yeah.
be me now sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, everyone's annoying me, and yeah, everything feels
Mhm.
high stakes. So, anyway, one of my favorites. I'm glad you liked it too. I'm glad we got to watch it together. This movie makes me happy. And these are some our recommendations, folks. So, take them if you will, or find your own chicken soup for the soul, because right now we need every little bit of help we can get. So
Indeed.
that will do it for us. Make sure to check out our website, reelfilmsnobs.com. Follow us on, click that subscribe link on Twitter. Sorry, not Twitter. We're not on Twitter. No, no, no. YouTube. And have a great day and great movies.
Bye. I think we did really well on time right there. I mean, I wish we had a little bit more time for We Are the Best, but you know,
Yeah, we did okay. It was fine.
Well,
it ended in a natural feeling
you guys
spot, I
want to keep
feel.
on chatting. I'm just going to leave it recording and who knows, we may use it for the after show, right?
Well, I don't know if I have much more to say about the movies. I think I gave, both of yours 4 stars. I probably liked Little Forest better, but I think that's because honestly, I think I watched Night is Short, Walk On Girl.
Hmm.
I think I watched it later at night, and that was probably a mistake because it was
Mm.
a lot going on,
It's
and I was
so
probably like,
dense.
yeah, I
Like,
was like, oh, what is happening? Are they making ramen again? What's happening now? So there
yeah,
was a little bit of that going on. But honestly, like, even if you don't follow the plot a lot the first time you watch it, like me, like just the visuals can get you
they're
by, I think.
incredible. Like, I love it. It just, again, yeah, it's so, so charming. The dialogue is like whip fast. It's really, really amazing. But it doesn't feel rushed. There's just a lot to say and not a lot of time to say it.
Yeah.
I think it's very economical storytelling considering how much they fit in, like the hour and a half runtime or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, I just love, it's like about choosing optimism, right? She comes up against, that old man who's like, oh, I drink because I want to like fall into oblivion. She's like, I drink because, it's warm and it's like having a hug on the inside and like all the alcohol like turns to butterflies in her stomach and everything. And I'm like, I could use a little more of that in my life, I'll admit. Like, uh,
Yeah, it's funny too because you're not a big drinker, and so it was making me laugh when I was watching this because
mm.
I was like, "Wow, this girl really likes to drink in this movie." Unlike Autumn, who can handle barely one drink. So I was
This movie
thinking,
makes me want to drink, for
"Oh
better or
no,
worse.
oh no." So if you are an alcoholic or recovering, maybe this is not the movie for you. But yeah, it is funny, because there is so much, and I was getting confused, like how, because with anime, everyone looks really young. So I'm
Mhm.
like, how old is she that she's drinking this much? Should I be concerned for this girl?
She's in college. That's what they do. I love though just how much the film too is about connection, right? And like all its disparate forms. You have obviously the connection between like at a drinking party and it starts at a marriage, right? And so connecting to people that way. And then they all go have their night out on town together and then everyone gets sick. But it's a sickness that connects them, because it's been passed on from one person to another. Or even when she goes to the book fair and like the god of used books or whatever is like talking about how, oh, this book happened because this author was a fan of that one and then they died and then their death was written about in this book and blah blah blah. It's like what I like to do with movies where I'm like, you see, this movie did this which led to this one which led to this one which led to everything that you like now, right? It's all connected. I really really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting insight into how your brain works too, because
Mhm.
you're interested in that connection, how things all fit together or don't in some cases. But and yeah, I thought the whole bookstore thing, that was another thing where I was watching, I was like, what is going on here with these bookstores like that are popping up out of nowhere, it seemed like.
They do have
And
those a lot, like in Japan. We don't really have them here, but I've seen many of those like depicted and in like documentaries
are
or
they
what
like
have
kind of
you.
like pop-up bookstores?
Yeah, they're just like I mean they're like book fairs, right? So it's you have you ever been to like they'll have like pop-ups of food trucks and things like that. It's just like the same idea.
Yeah,
You just
I've
have a
seen
little
like
spot
outdoor
and
book fairs and things, but these
yeah.
seemed like it seemed pretty large, so I think that was
Mhm.
the
I think they read more than most Americans.
well, yeah, there you go. Anyway, this is pretty funny. Yeah, no, those were all fun, and I'm glad you liked Romy Michelle's, even though it may not be like
There's
you're
a lot of.
obviously one of
I
your
wanted to
favorites,
talk
but
about the soundtrack and that too, right? Because you mentioned time after time, but like it opens too with Gwen Stefani. I'm just a girl and everything, and I'm just like I'm vibing, I'm jamming. Like the music is so good in that one. Like that's a huge attraction in itself. Like it's very much like a crystallization of the times, right? It's just like these are
right.
like the best pop songs at the time, and like it's very evocative and nostalgic in a way now.
Oh, I know. Yeah, well, and especially like, I mean, I'm not the age. I guess my sisters would probably be like the age of the characters because they were in like high school in the 80s. and now it's like the 90s, they're grown up. And so I was in high school in the 90s, so I was a little bit younger than the characters, but still I knew all those songs. And so like the songs at the beginning are the current songs in the 90s that are popular, and then when they go back to their reunion, it's all these great 80s songs. So it was like periods I was familiar with either from my youth or my sister's high school years hearing it, although they didn't listen to pop music, they listened to metal. But and also it's funny because as the protagonists, they're both these like gorgeous blondes that are outcasts, which is also funny.
So
But then they show
funny.
why, and you kind of realize like, oh, they're weird. Like they're not gorgeous blondes who are cheerleaders. And plus they show like Michelle was in the back brace for
Yeah.
scoliosis, and
Every time
you
she
know,
turned and it's like squeaking, it's so
right,
funny. I
right.
love
And
that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Romy's just like weird and says weird things. So they're just too weird, which I wasn't the gorgeous blonde, but I could relate with that. And I really related with Janine Garofalo, who was in, so many movies in this period, and including Reality Bites, and was one of my favorite comedians at the time.
Okay,
So,
and then one random off comment about Mira Sorvino is like I don't think I've seen her in very much, and this was like the first time I really heard her like talking. She has such a unique voice and delivery. I was like,
mm,
whoa, like every time she said something, I was like, that sounds wild. Like not in a
yeah.
bad way, but it's just like it's very unique, and I can appreciate that. And then another unrelated point is I wish we could have talked about the outfits more because the outfits are awesome. Like
Oh, yeah, no.
some of them are like very like of their time, but like in a fun way. But like just generally, I love that they just go like all out. They look like fabulous no matter where they're going. They're at like the gym, on the treadmill in high heels,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
like
love that
it's
scene.
so good. I love
They're
that.
like barely walking because of the
Yeah.
shoes they're wearing. It's like the gym is almost performative at that point. Yeah, and they, of course, they design all their own clothes together in these
Hmm.
outrageous outfits that people make fun of them for. But then, I love the twist at the end where the fashion designer is like, "Oh no, this is awesome," and I was like, "Yes, that's right."
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
when you're a cutting edge, sometimes you're out of sorts with because
You're
people in
ahead of
high
your time.
school, well, because people in high school they all dress the same. They all buy the same stuff at the
Hmm.
mall. They all want to look that's your thing in high school is you want to blend in. You want to look like everyone else. So Romy and Michelle were outcasts just because they didn't do that. Just right there
Hmm.
makes you out an outcast. So I loved that too about it because I was an outcast, but of sorts. But yeah, I could identify with that. So
For sure.
even though I was not a gorgeous blonde, but yeah, and Mira Sorvino, I was reading about this movie, and they said that they didn't think they could get her because they originally Toni Collette was actually thought of
Oh,
was she auditioned for the role, and they really thought she was going to be her, but then which would have been interesting. It would have given it a very different vibe, I think. Um,
100%. Yeah.
but Mira Sorvino, they didn't think they could get because she had just won the Oscar for Mighty Aphrodite, the Woody Allen movie, and so her one and only Oscar. And she unfortunately suffered that fate that happens to a lot of actresses when they win the supporting actress Oscar. Her career kind of faltered, actually. Well, and now we know a lot of it was because of Weinstein, but that's a whole other story. Because apparently he's the reason her career was destroyed. So, which is very sad. But yeah, she had won the Oscar for Mighty Aphrodite, and then they thought, well, she probably won't do this little comedy that isn't a big budget. And then when she said yes, they were like, we've got a big star now. So she's one of the reasons. And Lisa Kudrow coming off of Friends, that's how the movie got
Hmm.
funding for 20 million because at first when they wanted that much, it was mainly because of the music. They said the rights to Time After Time alone was 250,000, and then all the other songs. That was a huge part of the
I'm
budget.
not surprised. Yeah, like you choose huge hits like that. That's always going to be a hit
I
to the
know.
budget.
So, but then they were able to get the money because they had these two big stars, basically, who were, for women at the time, were coming off of again Friends, most popular TV show in American history, just about, and an Oscar win for Mira Sorvino. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. So, anyway, I'm glad you liked it. I wish I could have watched it together because then you see like my reactions, like chortling at some of my favorite lines because they're just the post-it note thing is
The post-it note
so
thing,
awesome.
like
Nobody knows this, and then
I
she,
was like, why would you choose post-its of all things? Like, yes, it's a very successful product, but like it's too successful. You need something more obscure. Like,
well,
why
again, they're
would
not the smartest gals in the
yeah,
whole world. So they didn't,
clearly,
they
yeah.
were just like, nobody knows that. And of course, you have to remember people, this is before everyone had their phones where they could look things up. But yeah,
Yeah.
but then of course, there's someone
The
that's very,
second the second they get to the reunion and then Lisa Kudrow is like, Oh yeah, well, I thought about the, emulsification of this high temperature, blah blah blah, blah, and then I mixed this to make the glue, and I was like, this is a dream. I was like, there's no
Oh, the
chance in
dream,
hell.
the dream sequence is
Yeah,
hilarious. We didn't even
yeah,
talk about the dream sequence. Yeah, so
it's
very.
so good.
I'm so glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.